Hey, all right. We seem to be doing much better now. The second go around. Welcome to Sketching Past Midnight Live. I am your somewhat humble host, CB Smallwood, here at the show where we talk about pretty much all things horror, sci-fi, comics, fantasy, pop culture, philosophy, life, and everything in between. And I'm currently on YouTube on my phone here. I'm trying to make sure everything's going good, which I feel like it's not, but I really don't care. I'm just going to wing it. So let me turn the background noise off so I can actually concentrate. Maybe that will help things along. I've also got my trusty bottle of water. I bought this cheap generic water, and I don't know if it's going to kill me, but we'll try it. Just because something says it's water doesn't actually mean that it is. Got my old sketchbook, and I'm not going to flip to the whole thing. I'm going to flip to something that's kind of relevant to what we're talking about today. So I think a couple of you have been curious as to what all I've been up to and where I've been and that sort of thing. And first of all, I promise I'm still alive, as you can see. and I've just been busy, kind of doing my own thing. I'll explain that in a minute. Today's topic, for those that are still with me, today's topic is all about needing help. Not necessarily me, but I'll take all the help I can get. But just in general, we all need help, and this advice is specific to comics in general. And this God, it sounds really crude to say. This realization, this little insight that I have to offer, was pretty much spurred on by Jim Lee, for whatever it's worth. Let me go over to the comments. Maybe the comments will set me straight. My good buddy from the Lion's Den is here with us tonight, and he writes, "Yo, how you doing?" I'm doing good. I appreciate you asking. All right, let me get my head on straight. So that's the topic tonight, about needing help, and I'll get into more about that here in just a little bit. Now, so why haven't I been posting a lot of stuff here lately? Well, I've just been really wanting to spend some time just working on my craft. Been busy at work, which I'm always doing that kind of business. But also, I've just been really wanting to double down and get good at making comics. And so I'm not going to show you a bunch of stuff because most of my sketches that I have is at work. And some of the sketches that I will be showing you is stuff where I'm working on trying to get better, and then the other stuff is just basically just me working on Wildcat stuff. So that's pretty cool, right? I'm trying to get things together, and I apologize that I didn't have this better planned out. You know, this is kind of a last moment type of deal. This is one of my newer sketchbooks. I like the fact it's got this little sleeve thing where I can put something in front of it, you know, if I want to. And the first page right away is a dud. This is from like months and months and months ago when I was trying to figure out how to what kind of page layout I wanted for Monster Patrol, but we kind of see how that ended up, you know. Here we got a lot of different studies that I was doing, and I know you can't really tell from the light. I'll tilt it. I'm not sure who the heck I was studying, but I like how it turned out. Might be kind of a little bit of various anime type stuff and that type of thing, or manga, you know. I think this might be like a Travis Charest type of study, you know. Again, I apologize for the quality, but it is what it is. I'm not going to fight it. You know, looks like a mix between some Del Keon stuff that I got going on here, some Mark Silvestri, and maybe even some John Byrne. I think there's some John Byrne stuff in here too. Some more Keon. I think John Byrne and maybe some Neil Adams in some of these. Most of this is Del Keon stuff, you know, which I do a few things different, but overall, this was my take on Silver Streak. You know, I plan on doing this comic in the future. You know, this is one of his villains, and you know, some of this stuff came out. You know, like I really don't like how this face looked. I don't like how this face looked either. I liked how this one sort of turned out, but then my son, he got creative. He got creative. This is more me studying Keon and stuff. So a lot of this stuff is old. I think you've already seen it. Let me kind of speed up here, okay? You don't want to see a lot of this stuff. You know, and the thing with, you know, keeping a sketchbook, in my opinion, is you got to quit treating it like it's a like this big holy thing, you know, because if you do, you'll never draw in it, you know. You just got to treat it like it's a piece of crap, and that's all you're going to put in it. And eventually, over time, you know, some good stuff are going to go in there, you know. Lots of me trying to figure out the female anatomy, coming up with my own method to do it. You know, me study. These are studies from different artists off of Instagram. I can't tell you who they are, but you know, it is what it is. I get inspired by what I get inspired by. Oh, here's Groon. You guys remember old Groon? I'm still working on Groon, but that's pretty much the color scheme of him, and I'm trying to, you know, I just want him to look really cool. You know, I'm wanting to go for more of a Hulk type of look because I want to draw a Hulk type of character, and you know, I don't know. And I promise, as I flip through this, you know, I will get to the needing help portion of this business. Again, you know, my son getting creative there. You know, there's more of his artwork, and there's that. I like these poses. looking pretty good there. Um, this is me studying Mike Manola, but adding in a few of my isms, a few of my charms. I love Mike Manola. I've really gotten into him, here lately. Probably about a year and a half ago, maybe, not for sure. There's more of my son's artwork through here, and me doing my thing there. More me studying Keon, more Keon studies, and a little bit of John Burns stuff, me studying how he does his capes and stuff and things like that. So I got a comment, good buddy from the Lions Den, and he writes, thanks for reading my stuff and helping me with the script for Half Breed through my Spider-Man writing. I have not read the Half Breed script yet. It said that I needed to get approved first, and I kind of had it pulled up on my phone. And what I like to do is for things like that, I like to do them at the house on my desktop computer. So I have to go and submit that I need to get the approval to pull up the Half Breed script so I can read it. But you're welcome. You're welcome on whatever help I was able to offer on the Spider-Man script. That's like that your story had really good bones to it, really good skeleton and stuff like that, and it's got like I really like the interpersonal stuff that you had going on there. I think that's key, like to make you care about the characters. On this, we're getting a little bit closer to newer stuff, but this is me studying both Keon and Andy Kubert. And it's kind of a mix. Here I'm getting into some John Buscema, and then whatever, Mike Manola and Del Keon. Most of this is just me studying John Buscema there. A bit of Keon. This is a concept sketch for the Wildcat ongoing book, Dead Man Walking. Or that's the name of the story arc. Let me just put it that way. And it looks really, really rude. but I kind of have in my head how I want it to look, and this is just me just trying to fart it out and try to figure it out. This is a bunch of nothing. This is just me studying John Buscema, taking out various panels from Conan and trying to figure out camera can focus. Let's see. Focus, camera. Come on. You ain't gonna do it. It's gonna be a big dumb whore, but whatever. But I assure you, this stuff looks a little bit better than how the camera's showing. This is some layout designs I was doing for a contest. And my art will be featured in a comic, but it won't be. I don't think it'll be like a full page spread or anything like that. You know. Studying some stuff here. The girl turned out pretty good. Where are we at, camera? Damn you, camera. Look at you. Has it stopped? Yeah, it sure has. Mm-hmm. 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 Well, it says it's back online, but the camera ain't doing squat. First, let me see what's happening on this. I hate technical difficulties. I despise it, you know. Oh man. Oh, look here. I can put this on mute. Hello. Oh man. Oh, look here. I can put this on mute. All right. Hello. Man. Oh, look here. I can put this on mute. All right. Holy moly. Okay, well, that's just how it's going to go, ain't it? Well, I guess you guys are just going to look at my avatar. How about that? So anyway, I don't know what the hell's the matter with my camera or with StreamYard. You know, it is what it is. Um, so anyway, I guess I pretty much just wanted to show you that I've been, you know, working on trying to get better as an artist. I've got like tons and tons of like these David Finch anatomy things that I've been doing, um, and I've been drawing those on this wonderful free big wads of free paper that's 11 by 17 that I got. They're not the cardboard stock. They're just, you know, regular, you know, kind of like you put in a photocopier type of paper, you know, except for they're huge. And so it allows me a lot of wiggle room to draw on and to have fun with. Um, the So I've been doing a lot of that stuff, learning from David Finch, you know, not directly through his videos on YouTube. I've actually picked up a few things from the Joe Kubert School on their YouTube channel because they have released, and I really encourage all of you to do this right now, or after this video is over, is to go on YouTube and pull up Joe Kubert School, and they've got their courses, their freaking courses, you know, on YouTube. And so all those, you remember reading Marvel comics or maybe even DC comics, and then you'd see an advertisement for the Joe Kubert School, and they had these distance learning courses that you could take. And oh, I always wanted those distance learning courses. And you know, the retail value of a distance learning course with the critiques that come with it is about it's over $100, about 170, $180 right now. I can't remember what it was back then, but it was a lot of money. But part of the value of it isn't just the lessons or the book or the course materials that came with it. It's the fact that you can send off that those drawings, that artwork, and um, have, you know, Joe Kubert or Andy or Adam or any of the alumni that was on staff at the time critique your work and send back to you what you need to fix. And so that's extremely valuable, you know. And I guess in some ways it's a good segue into needing help, but I'll get into that in a minute. But there's some things on inking and on lettering that I'm really interested in that I got from the videos, and I've watched like 3 of them so far. In my opinion, I don't think purchasing the videos are that worth it, and I guess that's part of the reason why the Joe Kubert School put them online, because I feel like David Finch's stuff is far superior, and some other people on YouTube that offer advice on how to draw this or that, you know. Um, let's see. So I've been studying a lot of that stuff. I've just been working on my faces, drawing faces. Um, been learning a lot from Dale Keown and here lately J. Scott Campbell, which I used to study him back in the day. I pretty much studied anybody that's anybody at one point or another, and I don't say that with arrogance. I'm being really sincere. I used to be so obsessed with style, but not so much anymore. You know. Yeah. Let me see if my camera's working now. Let's try this again. Got my hand in front of the camera and garbage, just hot garbage. So I guess that's how it is. Oh man. Maybe if me try this. You know what? I ain't gonna worry about it. So let's go back to this. I like the new Empire logo. Pretty killer, right? And I appreciate those of you that stuck with me so far in this video with just looking at a graphic. And I'm going to try to make this short too, you know, maybe end at about 40-minute mark or something like that. Because, you know, I just wanted to really give an update more than anything. But anyway, where was I at? What was I thinking? There was something interesting that I wanted to say. So I've just been studying my butt off and studying J. Scott Campbell and you know, having some success with that. You know, I have been studying Arthur Adams as far as women. Now I'm studying J. Scott Campbell as far as women, and kind of my mindset is, you know, I'm just going to embrace the inner child in me and go back to the things that really got me excited about comics in the first place. Go back to the artists that and the comics that made me want to draw. And I think when you do that, when you go back to that wellspring of what really it tickled you as a child, it sounded kind of bad. I think when you do stuff like that, you're going to produce good results, you know. And when you chase like all the modern fads, you know, all the modern artists and stuff like that, and all these other things, you're getting further and further removed from, you know, who you are, you know, because what you're interested in is what you're interested in, and if you pursue your true passions, then it's going to show in your work, you know, it's going to look good, in my opinion, you know, that's just my opinion. Um, the other thing is uh, that I've been doing here lately, other than studying, and I promise I have a bunch of sketches. I've had some cool stuff laid out here to show you, but the camera's just not going to work. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of stuff with Wildcat. You know, I've been doing some concept sketches of Dr. Terror. You know, and I've got, you know, a lot of cool stuff going on with him that I've kind of fleshed out, and he's going to be a central figure in the anthology, in the Wildcat anthology, and also in the main series of Wildcat. But he's going to be in the anthology, and he's going to be this. I don't know if whimsical is the right word, but he's kind of like this character that has a charm to him. You know, he's a bit of a gentleman, even though he is a villain. And you know, he wears these Victorian clothes, and he has like this golden mask. You know, it's got these two eye holes and an impression for a nose and just this little slit for a mouth. And he wears this because basically he's, you know, kind of mummified looking underneath, you know. And and I've been thinking about, you know, his origin and what all he can do and all this other stuff. And I've been trying to figure out how he also fits into the Wildcat Dead Men Walking comic as well. Can everybody still hear me good in the chat? You know, please let me know that you can, you know, hear me. So I'm just, you know, so I'm not bloviating all by myself. let's see. So I've been doing that stuff, and I also been doing a lot of concept sketches for the Wildcat Dead Man Walking comic. Um, like basically, I got a couple of cool images that I drew of him being chained up as he's kind of being murdered and stuff like that. And kind of like my main mental focus is coming up as much cool visual stuff for the first issue of the Dead Man Walking story arc. So that way, I just going back to that 12-year-old, 14-year-old me reading comics and picking up Pit 3 for the first time and seeing that big battle between Pit and Zoid, and then as I'm leaving Walmart, it's raining and it's soaking into the cover. Oh my God, terrible. But I still got that book, and it's awesome, and going back to those things, and um, I want to produce that same feeling, of reading, Spawn #1, all that great stuff. So I'm really wanting to go very heavy on the visuals and then just kind of come in and just try to figure out how that stuff actually makes sense and bring out the writer in me so that way those two harmonize well. I know I'm making it confusing. I don't mean to. Um, let's see. Let me answer some comments right quick. When I started to draw it, it was a waste of time in school, but I wished I did art classes in school. Yeah, I hear you on that. I'm kind of wired in a weird way. Most of the time, people ask me these hypotheticals if you could go back in time and you could change this or that, what would you change? And in 99.9% of the time, my answer is nothing. I wouldn't change a thing because, um, I learn from those mistakes. They become like these little painful things in my side that are a reminder that my apathy, that my lack of willingness to do what needs to be done cost me time and it cost me opportunities, a lot of other things. And so I mean, I'm not preaching to you, or anyone else. I'm just talking about me, how I perceive it, But for me personally, most of the time, I I I don't really have regrets because sometimes you need painful lessons to remind yourself like, hey, this is the consequence if you don't follow through or if you follow through on the wrong things. um but the only caveat to that for me personally is, if I don't heed my own advice and I still make the same mistakes, then I would wish that I could go back in time and change things. um but our past is what makes us, part of who we are. um so I've been doing a lot of Wildcat stuff for Dead Man Walking. Trying to describe stuff visually, it's difficult, and I've got a lot of cool stuff with that. I guess I'll have to share that for a later stream. Um, but I have been working hard. I've also did a updated version of the Wildcat logo. Not the title, the WILDCAT Wildcat title. I mean, he actually has an emblem, a logo like Superman or Batman. Except for Wildcat doesn't wear it on his clothes or anything like that. It's just something uh, for marketing reasons and all this other stuff, and it's just something really cool to have. And so I did a digital version of that, and for anyone interested, you can look it up on Twitter, and maybe I'll upload the digital version up on Instagram as well. Um, so I want to talk about needing help. You know, needing help. Not so much me, but I do need help. I do. Um, I want to talk about Jim Lee for a second, and I think that would be a good way to end this episode. Is on Jim Lee. Why not? But Jim Lee is, I guess he's one of my comic book heroes. I mean, he's definitely in the top 10, of artists that I greatly admire and respect in terms of their ability and their accomplishments, and also there's all this other stuff and how they set the standard. Top 10, no doubt about it. He's my top 10 guy. And the thing with Jim Lee, I remember reading and hearing an interview where when Jim Lee was in, I think he was in med school and he was studying to be a psychiatrist, I think. And he is from, um, originally from Korea, and I think he immigrated here with his parents. And part of the way that he learned to actually speak English, unless I'm talking out my butt, was he read American comics, and that's uh, that was part of that. Interesting. Which is kind of hard to learn to speak English from reading comics. You think it'd be more of a movies thing, but whatever. So anyway, and as like Koreans, like most Asian parents, are very very strict, and they want their sons and I guess daughters to go on to be doctors and engineers and lawyers. These big high paying professions, and so that was no different from Jim Lee. And so they wanted him, to go on and do his medical stuff. Be I guess a psychologist or a psychiatrist or something like that. And he was on course to do that, but he had this bug, about this itch that was called, wanting to be a comic artist. And he basically told his parents that, give me 1 year, 1 year, and if I can't break into the comic industry and make a little bit of money doing it, then I'll go back head first and resume my medical studies or whatever it is. So I don't know if he dropped out of school or if he pursued comics at the same time he was doing school. You have to take that comment as it is, that type of thing. But anyway, so Mr. Jim Lee did just that. He doubled down and really worked on his artwork and stuff like that. I think, and I could be wrong, he may have moved closer to New York. Don't quote me on that. I have to do more research on it, but I think he moved closer to New York, and he would go actually in the Marvel offices. And at that time, people were coming and going, very, very busy at the bullpen. And there would be these Xerox copies, these big 11 by 17 or 10 by 14, whatever copies of the latest issues of the books that have not even been printed yet. So, Jim Lee could see a Frank Miller Daredevil, blown up artwork, the photocopied pencils of Frank Miller Daredevil. He could see photocopied pencils, of the original size stuff of John Byrne X-Men or whatever. I don't know. Or whatever John Byrne was working on at the time, but you get the idea. And so he would take these home with him or at his apartment, and he would study them. I mean, he kind of pick up some ideas. There is something about seeing the artwork and its full 11 by 17 glory, just the raw pencils, and kind of get an idea. I can't really explain it to you. There's you see things. You see how loose some of the pencils can be. You see little tricks where they put X's everywhere to let the inker know, hey, black this area out, and all these little things that you can't learn from just looking at the finished product, the comic book, but by seeing the pure raw pencil form, you learn a lot. And that's what Jim Lee did. He studied that stuff. And then eventually, I think one of his first gigs was drawing like a Samurai Santa or something like that, some type of indie book. I'm not for sure. And then right away he got a gig at working at Marvel. I can't remember if he started on Alpha Flight first. I feel like he did, and then he worked his way up to the Punisher. And then once he got on Punisher, it became a big deal. Everybody loved Jim Lee when he's on Punisher. It's like, wow, look at this guy. And that was around the time he really started to figure out, where he was kind of going as an artist. Developing his own style type of thing. But it's still, his style still wasn't quite there yet. It wasn't until they eventually gave him a job on X-Men that it really started coming together, and he incorporated more Arthur Adams looking stuff, Jim Lee did. And then maybe a dash more freaking, what is that other guy? He just released a book here lately, Barry Windsor Smith, okay? Barry Windsor Smith. So he incorporated a lot of that stuff. And nobody never talks about this. Nobody never mentions this, but I think and I believe, and there's evidence to back this up, that he riffed off of, and I say that respectfully, off of Wallace Portacio. Wallace Portacio and him were kind of like, big buddies there. And I would argue that if it was not for Wallace Portacio, I don't think Jim Lee would be as successful. He played a huge, huge role in Jim Lee's life from the late '80s all the way up to maybe the mid '90s, and there's a lot to that. But anyway, I remember reading in interviews and stuff like that. When Jim Lee was trying to break into comics, and he gave himself that special 1 year, that 1 year to break into comics, and he would go and run track or run at the park or whatever, and he'd be chanting, Frank Miller, John Byrne, Frank Miller, John Byrne. As this mantra. I really respect it. I love that. I love that focus. Um, there really is something to that. Getting your mind, your headspace in the right place, and being hungry for it. Really hungry. And he was hungry. And here's the big revelation, folks, about the idea that you need help. I guess on a subconscious level, I just always assumed that Jim Lee was, I shouldn't say this, but well, it's not that it's scandalous, but well, I guess on some level, some part of my brain had just assumed that Jim Lee's godlike with these divine powers that were innate in him. Now, I always say, and I believe it wholeheartedly, freaking Eddie Van Halen was not born Eddie Van Halen. And a lot of people, look at me like I'm crazy. What the hell you mean by that? That's like Eddie Van Halen wasn't born Eddie Van Halen. Jack Kirby wasn't born Jack Kirby. Jim Lee wasn't born Jim Lee. And what do I mean by that? Yeah, of course, their legal name was that and all this other stuff. But everybody's born a freaking potato. That's all we are, with potatoes. These 2 arms and 2 legs, 10 fingers, 10 toes, sometimes extra, sometimes less, depending on abnormalities. But let's not get into that. But for the most part, that's the experience for most humans. We're just a potato with limbs and a head. And as potatoes, we're just this big thing of mush that doesn't know anything and cannot survive on its own. And we rely entirely on the help of others to get us to a state to where we can be somewhat self-sufficient. And the interesting thing is, we never ever grow beyond needing help. Unlike other animals, other living things. Let me put it that way: other living things on this planet. Most living things on this planet, not all, but most, pretty much are ready to go straight out of the box, straight out of the egg, straight out of the whatever. But humans are different. We need help essentially for the rest of our lives. It's only when we're like, gosh, I would argue somewhere in the 20s or in our 30s that we start to actually become what I would consider self-sufficient, to where we don't need as much help as we used to, but we still need it. You know, we'll always need it. In some ways, that is the flaw of humanity, but it's also the beauty of humanity. It's the glue that holds us together. And I think that's interesting. So anyway, with Jim Lee, he wasn't born Jim Lee. He became Jim Lee because of the help of others. The man that you see today was not born that way. He became that way. The best way I can describe it is like, I always like to cite Conan the Barbarian. Watch that movie if you've not seen it. And in it, Conan is his whole tribe, his whole village dies. He's the only survivor. And well, I think, no, that's not right. There's probably like 10 survivors or so, most of them kids, and they're taken out to the middle of the desert. And there's this big wheel, and I guess it must be like some wheel that does something with wheat or irrigation. I'm not for sure. They don't really show the purpose of the wheel, though I do believe it did have a purpose. But anyway, all these guys from his village, including Conan, are tied to the wheel as young boys, and they're forced to push it. They're tied to it, and they have to push it so that wheel can perform its function, either as irrigation or as like some type of wheat grinder. I don't know. Doesn't matter. The point is, as the years go on, more and more of the boys just die. Probably a malnourishment, or I have no idea. But as more of the boys die, Conan, through probably sheer force of will, kept going. There's probably times when he wanted to kill over and just give up, but he didn't. He just, maybe out of spite, maybe out of just pure spite, he just kept going, pushing that wheel. And because he did, every time somebody would die, that was more weight he had to push. And then somebody else would die or be sold off as a slave. And so that would be more weight Conan had to push. And eventually there was no one left to push the wheel but Conan. And Conan had to develop all these muscles in his arms and legs and back and chest and abs in order to push that wheel. And Jim Lee is no different. He's not Conan, but with Jim Lee, he was born a potato, but at some point he became the Jim Lee that we know today. You know what I'm saying? The environment helped shape him. All these other factors, the help that he got helped shaped him. And it seemed like about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I don't know, I came to that realization harder than ever before. There's like two things that I learned, and one of these things is bigger than the other for me, I guess. And I never knew this. I never knew this, but Jim Lee, when he was aspiring to be a comic book artist, he hadn't got his job at Marvel Comics yet. He hadn't done his first indie gig with that Samurai Santa. He was just a guy in school, maybe getting ready to drop out or take a year off. I don't know. Who was going to try to pursue a thing in comics, running around in parks, chanting John Byrne and Frank Miller. But the thing that I did not know, that I only learned to recently, and you can look this up on Wikipedia, Jim Lee befriended two comic book professionals at this time. Now, I cannot remember their names for the life of me. And most people, and I say this respectfully, most people don't know who these guys are either. These guys are veterans of the Silver Age and the Golden Age of comics. They know how to put a good story together. They're decent storytellers, but they're not anything that, you're not going to think, oh, wow, this person's like a Neil Adams, or this person's like, what have you, At least I don't think so. I don't know. I'd have to go back and relook at their work. I'm talking out my butt a little bit. But the point is, these artists are kind of obscure by today's standards, and I guess it's because the market's so flooded with different talent that's out there. So it's easier to overlook these old guys. But back in the 80s, I guess, when Jim Lee was trying to break in the business, he had these two guys, these veterans of the business, that were helping him. They were helping him, explain to him what he needs to work on, what he needs to do, who he needs to talk to, what to look out for, what are the dangers, what are the hurdles and stuff. And it's like, my mind went, it exploded. It exploded. It's interesting. It made me realize that everybody needs help. I mean, I already knew that, but like it kind of deepened it, and it really clicked, and the neurons and the little pathways in my brain connected in really neat ways, and I had clarity of vision, and it was really important. It's an important lesson to learn, and and I know, because how this video kind of turned out, that a lot of people's not going to watch it, but I'll probably do a video about this later on. It's more like, a 10-minute video, and it's well edited and stuff. But for all of you that's watching live, that may watch the replay, that may tough it out, I think this is really important stuff to hear. It really is, because, you always assume people like Jim Lee are godlike, but they're not. They're just potatoes that's had help along the way. I'm a potato too. We're all potatoes. and we have and we have help along the way, and I think what the difference between Jim Lee and us, what's the difference between the two of us, or all of us, is Jim Lee not only had help, but he learned to ask for help. That's the difference maker. I mean, you guys and gals hearing me here, those watching live, and will watch the replay later, maybe, who knows. That is so important, is to ask for help on whatever it is. um and sometimes asking for help is just asking questions, because essentially that's what a question is. You're trying to get information from somebody to benefit yourself or those around you. So, asking for help is not always asking somebody to do something. Sometimes it's just asking somebody to tell you something. And I think that's something that Jim Lee was good at. He's like, he found these guys at a comic book convention, or maybe they lived near him at the time. And he's like, oh, wow, I want to be a comic book artist. Like, and they saw that he had a good work ethic, and he was determined. And he's like, well, he'd show him his portfolio, and he'd ask them, what do I need to work on? They'd tell him, and then he'd show back up, and he befriended them. They took a what is it? Not a charm to him, but they took a whatever to him. I can't remember the old expression, but but they liked him. And so they were helping him out. They didn't get his jobs for him, but what they did do, as far as I know, is tell him what he needed to know and what he needed to work on, and guided him. And if if you live somewhere out in the Midwest or the heartland of America, you don't live on the East Coast or West Coast, and it's pre-internet, probably early 90s, you're lucky to break into comics, in my opinion, because you don't really get to go to conventions and stuff like that. Of course, it's different today. You know, Everything's different today on multiple levels, and I'm not going to get into all that, because I think that would bore everybody to death. But and this ain't like a pity party or anything like that. But the point is, the man needed help, and he got it, and it didn't end there. Here's something else I think a lot of people don't know about Jim Lee. So he breaks into comics, and he starts off with the indie book, I think Samurai Santa or something like that. He drew the cover, at least. And then he got a job, I think, on Alpha Flight, which I could be wrong in the order of things. And then he got on Punisher, and he blew up big. People loved him on Punisher. And then I think he went straight into X-Men, unless I'm mistaken. I think he took over for maybe Mark Silvestri, who was going to go draw on Wolverine. And but it was around the time that he was on Punisher that he may have met Wallace Portacio. I could be wrong. And Wallace Portacio has been like rocket fuel for Jim Lee in the same way that Dave Mustaine was from Metallica back in 1983, which I'm not going to get into all of that. But what Wallace Portacio did, I think he introduced Jim Lee to certain techniques as far as like feathering and cross hatching, which Jim Lee was already picking stuff up from Arthur Adams and freaking Barry Windsor Smith. There we go. And a lot of people like that, of course, John Byrne. But I think he also picked up a lot of stuff from Wallace Portacio, and both of those guys ended up working on the X-Men, X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. And they would eventually go to form a studio together. The two guys did, and a lot of people don't know this. They really don't, but you go look at some of those early X-Men issues, and you've got Wallace Portacio, who's inking over Jim's pencils. Sometimes Jim Lee would ink over Wallace Portacio pencils, and they would collab. They would do these mad collabs on all these pages. Now, if you look at Jim Lee's stuff, how it's super detailed and it's got all this stuff going on, and the fact that he was meeting deadlines, that's how he was doing it. He had help. Wallace Portacio was helping him, and he was helping Wallace. They had the studio together, and they would just share pages, and one would draw backgrounds. So some of the backgrounds in freaking Jim Lee X-Men books are not even, Jim Lee didn't even draw them. it was Wallace Portacio. Oh my gosh. And that never stopped. That never stopped. That I think, I could be wrong. A lot of that could be still going on today. But I know that after the X-Men, when eventually, Jim Lee joined Rob Liefeld, on his quest to create Image Comics with the rest of the guys, and then Jim Lee would go on to make Wildstorm Studios. I think on Wildcats and a lot of other things that Jim Lee worked on, he had help still. I'm not for sure if Wallace Portacio was still doing the, working with, I mean, he did work with him in the studio, but I'm not sure if they were doing pages together. But Jim Lee at this point had employed about 3 guys that are, they're like ghost artists is what they are. I don't know what to call them, but other than ghost artists. They were never credited in the comics. But these guys help draw backgrounds and all these other things, little stuff here and there and stuff like that. And so, and they just never got the credit for it. They got paid good, they got paid really good, but they were never listed in the credits. And so, all this superhuman skill that we attribute to Jim Lee is a little bit undeserved. I mean, he does deserve a lot of credit, in the things that he's accomplished. But a lot of people helped him along the way, and his biggest accomplishment is having the brain and the mental capacity to understand the importance of asking questions, the importance of asking for help, the importance of working together to get things done. And that's helped him a lot in his career. Going back to Wallace Portacio, when Wallace followed him to Image, and he was working at Homage Studios or Wildstorm Studios, whatever you want to call it, Wallace Portacio was one of the pioneers for digital coloring. So all that awesome coloring that we got out of the 90s, I don't want to say he's solely responsible, but he's one of the main guys that figured out how to do that stuff. They had a desktop computer, and they did it with a mouse, not a stylus pen or anything like that. And I can't remember what type of software that they had that they used to do it with, or any of that stuff. I have to go back and reread the interviews. But Wallace was one of the first guys that sat down and figured out how to do that stuff. They were pushing the envelope of what was possible with a comic book, and trying to looking at it as not just as like some means to make money, but as an art form, trying to be put out the best product possible. Why not? And that was kind of their attitude. And so again, Wallace is helping his buddy Jim Lee in that regard. And so to bring things back full circle, and I'm applying this to myself and anyone listening now or later, is don't be afraid to ask people questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help and all this other stuff. The worst you can be told is no, or like somebody says really snarky or something really shitty, just being a jerk about it. That happens too, but that's okay. You know, the way I look at things is, when you're on a mission and you're trying to get something accomplished, I always like to think about this quote by Gene Simmons of Kiss. He's the bass player in the band Kiss. He's the one that played the Demon. He would try to sleep with a woman every night, when he was on tour or something. And so, what he would do is he would ask 100 women every show if they would sleep with him. And the overwhelming majority of the women told him no. But in the words of Gene Simmons, he says, "But here's the thing, I only need one to say yes." Mind blown. So I forgot what my point was, but hopefully, you know whatever point I was trying to make. But um, oh, I think what I'm trying to say is, when you're asking questions or asking for help, and and maybe occasionally you get somebody being a jerk or people telling you only need, uh, eventually you'll find the person. There we go. You'll find the person that'll help you with whatever your needs may be. Yeah. But that's only going to happen if you continue to keep asking questions, and sometimes the right questions, and keep asking for help and that sort of thing. And so that's pretty much my big Jim Lee revelation. And um, just my mindset in the past couple months has been changing. I remember with I can't pronounce his name, but Joe Mad. I don't know if it's Joe Maduria, Madroya. I'm terrible with names, but just Joe Mad. I remember reading this big thing where he went off on people on Facebook, but not in a bad way. But he gave this big lecture about like how he'd get annoyed when people would show them their portfolios at conventions, and they'd be like, they would tell him like, "Hey, I know I need to work on my anatomy and this other thing, but what do you think? What do you think about the rest of it?" And in Joe Mad's opinion, it's like, "Hey, why are you showing me your portfolio? Why would you show me that? Like if you're not showing me your absolute best stuff, how can I give you my absolute best advice?" And that really resonated with me for a long, long time until a couple of months ago. And then, it's just one of these things that click in your head, like you grow up loving Metallica for the longest time, but you can't listen to Judas Priest. But for some reason, as you get older, you're like, oh, Judas Priest is freaking awesome. Well, it's kind of like the same thing, this Joe Mad advice that I had, like don't show your portfolio to anybody unless it's the best possible, you think you're putting out the best stuff so that way you can get the best advice. And now my mindset is kind of changed on that. I still support the merits of what he was trying to argue and articulate. You should absolutely try to do your best and put your best foot forward and all that other crap. But where I differ now is he should have never discouraged people from showing their portfolios. I think in my mindset now that is wrong, because um it's like, you know, if some people get caught up in perfection, you know, and what they end up doing is, you know, maybe somebody that had real talent, you know, showed their portfolio to Joe Mad, and there's like, hey, I know I need to work on my anatomy, but what about this other stuff? What do you think about this other stuff? And he's like, hey, you know, if you're not going to show me your best stuff, you know, if you're not going to put forth the effort to show me what you think is your best, then I can't give you the best advice. And then that person walks away, and they they try to work on it at home, but they get so caught up in making it perfect that it becomes laborious, and like a job that you don't get paid, and eventually they're drawing less and less, and then, you know, piss on it. You know, they're a manager at Pizza Hut now. I don't know, nothing wrong with that, but all I'm saying is, if your dream is to make comics, then, you know, then that is a problem. You know. And so my mindset now with the whole Joel Mad thing is, you know, he shouldn't have phrased it that way. You know, he should always encourage people, unless he doesn't want to look at portfolios. He doesn't have to look at portfolios if he don't want to. But if he is going to look at portfolios, don't be a butt. Let you know, let you know, don't discourage people from showing their stuff. Doesn't matter if they always, you know, start with this little phrase of like, you know I need to work on this, but, you know, fine, hear them out anyway, because you know, people need what they need at the time that they need it. That's all I know. And so my mindset now is like, you know, we need to share our stuff, we need to show our stuff, we need to help one another. um, that doesn't mean that we necessarily have to listen to everything that everybody says, or let me rephrase that we have to take the advice that everybody says. We should always listen, because, you know, our minds change. My mind changes. Absolutely. We should always listen to one another, but it doesn't mean that we always have to act on everything, because that's not what I'm articulating. But we're creatures that are born needing help, and we always need help for the rest of our lives. Let me answer a few of these questions here. Let's see. Lions Den writes, we are a blank canvas with the ability to be given painted on by others, aka the influence to be given color. The liken to Jim. And he writes, going to sleep, take care. Well, you have a good sleep, sir, and look forward to reading the Half Breed script here soon. So give me time on that. I'm a terrible procrastinator, as everyone knows, and but I always like to try to give things undivided attention. So you have a good night. So that's been my mindset here. You know, I've been having these interesting moments of clarity. You know, getting my head on straight. And I do have one last thing that's really, really interesting to say to you all. Um, let's see. Jan says it takes a village. Absolutely. Oh, I wanted to say this at the beginning of the video, and I forgot. Is I wanted to wish you a gosh, how do you say that? Happy marriage? Happy uh, uh, congratulations. That's it. That's the expression. Congratulations on getting married. Very cool. Very cool. Let's see. Robert writes, ACB just saw you, but no sketching. Well, here's the thing. Let's see if this can work. You know, I don't think it will, but we'll try again. I know you can't see right now. Well, I think you can, but I'm waving my hand in front of the camera, but I don't see nothing. You know, I see the artwork, but it's like it's frozen. And I just got to the point where like, you know, like, hey, I'm live, and you know, people are watching, you know, and I can't sit here like stuttering John and have nothing to offer, you know. So I decided just to go straight into the interesting stuff, you know, because you know, I was just mainly just showing sketches and stuff. And a quick recap before I get into this thing from this video that I saw a couple of days ago, or 2 days ago, I think. Basically, if anybody watches the replay, I did show a little bit, but not much. I didn't get into the heavy meat of it, where I had been working on anatomy, been working slightly on perspective, um, studying a lot of David Finch videos, some Joe Kubert School videos, which all of the Joe Kubert School videos from the courses that you had to pay like $180 or $100, whatever, they are online for free on YouTube. So watch those. I've been watching them. I've learned at least three important things. One thing I learned like a month ago, at my own expense after doing it wrong for like years and years. You need to draw stuff at 90 degrees and uh, but also picking up some stuff on lettering, by hand and on inking. So check that stuff out. It's on YouTube. And so I've been studying that crap and studying Dale Keon and J. Scott Campbell really heavy, and coming up with lots of really cool concepts for Wildcat Dead Man Walking and Wildcat anthology. I've also, as of today, been looking up a lot of novelty horror stuff, a lot of horror themed toys and weird stuff and horror dolls and horror um, kits and different things, people that make them. And what I like to do is approach a lot of these companies or individuals that make this stuff and have them featured in the anthology. I really want to do these old school advertisements that you used to see in like in these Warren publications, like I don't know if it's called Creeps or Creep or whatever, Creepy, um, like Vampirella, a lot of things like that, or like old Marvel ads from the 70s, early 80s, and 60s, also DC, a lot of stuff, but horror themed and, grunge, grindhouse type of stuff. I think it would be really cool. And so I've been making a list. I actually made a list of like, maybe like 15 people to approach, like, hey, um, I wanna advertise your stuff in here. I don't I don't even think I'm going to even hit them up for money or anything like that. I'm just gonna ask them, because I think it would be really cool aesthetic. And there'll be fake ads in there too, just for shits and giggles and that sort of thing. Um, Jan says, "Tales from the Crypt." Exactly, exactly. So, um, here's the last thing. Yin's probably missed my whole big thing about needing help, and everybody needs help. We're born needing help, and we just need that throughout our lives. Maybe not as much as we did when we first came into this world, but definitely for the rest of our lives. And I went into this really, I felt like it was a really good thing on Jim Lee, um, about like how Jim Lee is, I put him on a pedestal as like this, almost like this god, that deity of comics, and realizing that he had help, from the beginning of his career. And a lot of people didn't know that he had these two old school artists that were helping him when he was an aspiring comic artist, and that he had the intelligence to ask questions. He had the intelligence to ask for help, and he even went so far as I think he may even move to New York at one point, and he would go to the Marvel offices, and then things were so busy and hectic, you could walk up to any editor or artist and like, hey, can I photocopy this Frank Miller 11 by 17 original pencil art? Like, sure, go ahead. Nobody cared. Can I photocopy this Jack Kirby Machine Man or whatever, or Eternals or whatever? I don't know what he's working on at the time. Or can I photocopy this John Byrne Alpha Flight? And so he would have the 11 by 17s, and he could take them home and he'd study them. And there's a lot that you can learn from rough pencils about how things are done, especially blown up, to the original size, than you can see in the finished product. And I don't know. I don't want to repeat myself, in case you've already heard it, but there's a lot of great stuff that I learned. It's really like made my head explode. So this last topic that I want to talk about is not really, well, I guess it is sort of relevant to what I'm talking about needing help, embracing help, And I say this not just directed to anybody listening, but at myself. And I think I've been pretty good in the last couple of years about accepting help and just like listening more than anything. Doesn't matter if I've heard it before or not. I'm going to listen because you're like a good gold miner. Eventually, after you dig through all the dirt, you're going to get something valuable if you're digging in the right place. Maybe that's not the best analogy, but hopefully. About 2 or 3 days ago on YouTube, there is a popular YouTuber who built a career out of critiquing the comic book industry, basically. And well, everybody really likes him. I like him, I think he's all right, and he's had several successful campaigns and stuff like that, and good for him. And he did a video where somebody had asked him, I'll call this guy Bob. I'll call this guy Bob. And then I'll call the YouTube guy YouTube Man. How about that? So Bob had got in contact with YouTube Man, and Bob was like, "Hey, will you critique my artwork and tell me what I need to work on?" Now, YouTube Man is a comic book writer. He writes comics. He didn't start out that way. He started out as an aspiring artist himself. I feel like I've seen his pencils back in the day. Not that he shared them with me personally, just through one of his videos. And it's actually pretty good. From what I remember. I don't know. Um, but he's made a career off of critiquing others and also um, writing comics. His own comics. So this guy Bob writes YouTube Man like, hey, will you critique my artwork? He's like, sure. And so I guess Bob just kind of spent like 10 minutes, grabbed an ink pen and started sketching out like just some drawing. And the drawing is of it's a like a bust, like a statue bust, where it's like basically from the nipples to the top of the head type of thing, somewhere in there, like half the chest going up to the collarbones and the neck, and they don't have no arms. You know what I'm talking about? A bust. Um, he basically did a bust of a guy and a girl next to one another, not shoulder to shoulder. I got 5% left. um, but he did a bust of that, and I tell you what, Williams give me Williams give me like 2 minutes to grab my charger and plug in, and I'll finish the story because I think it's an important story. I think it's interesting. So bear with me. Let's see. Maybe I'll play some music in the background or something. All right, I'm going right now to get the charger. No music in the background, but whatever. Will my phone make it? I don't know. I'm trying with all my soul. Gonna plug it into this thing. Got my wires. I tell you what, nothing's going right tonight. I can't show my sketching. Phone's dying. All right, I got it in. It's charging. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Can it hear me? Can y'all hear me? Are we still good? I hope so. Me. So, finishing my story. So YouTube man agreed to critique Bob. And Bob does like basically this bust of this boy and girl. They're like next to one another, nipple to head height, no arms, nothing like that. So it's kind of like a medium shot of these two, that type of thing. It's like a quick 10-minute sketch done with an ink pen. And the girl is drawn the exact same way Arthur Adams would draw a girl, so I can tell that he's a fan of Arthur Adams. So already this guy, Bob, has great taste. The guy looks like Trent Kanuga. It looked like a Trent Kanuga drawing. So if you're not familiar with Trent Kanuga, look up 1990s Creed comics that were done under what the hell is that company called? I think it's Harris Publishing. I could be wrong. I think Harris is what published it. And anyway, Bob drew this guy like how Trent Kanuga used to draw back in the 90s. And he drew this girl like how Arthur Adams drew, actually kind of like how he drew in the 90s too. Arthur Adams kind of changed throughout the years. And I thought, when I looked at it, I thought it looked pretty good. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this video of YouTube man do this critique. And the critique was about 20 minutes long. I can't remember how it was. And it was like, honestly, it's like the shittiest critique I've ever heard. Neil Adams, poor Neil Adams gets a lot of flack for his critiques, but I actually find Neil Adams' critiques helpful, even though it's the same. He's got like his canned response, Neil Adams does, to everything, because anytime somebody asks him to critique their stuff, he doesn't actually critique it. He may notice that they do one or two things wrong, and then he always narrows it down to the same thing. He gives the same speech, which is like basically, you need to look at reference, like, so if you're drawing ears, you need to look at pictures of ears. If you're drawing cars, don't draw from your imagination. Actually look at a picture of a car and draw it. It's very good advice. But at the same time, Neil Adams could, do a little bit better than that. Well, I shouldn't say that. He doesn't have to do anything he don't want to. But I feel like if he's actually going to give a critique to somebody, he should at least, actually like say, hey, Superman's left pec looks kind of weird there, so you want to tighten that up, and here's the way that you might want to fix that, and that sort of thing. But overall, Neil Adams' advice is good. And I guess my point of bringing him up is that a lot of people, give him lots of flack for for how he talks to people. Well, let me tell you something. YouTube man set a new standard. I still like YouTube man. I got nothing against him or anything like that. That's not the point. My point is, for like 20 minutes or however long that video was, I think it was like a 20-minute video. He just basically told Bob in that 20-minute video why, that he shouldn't pursue comics, that it's impossible for him, that he's not born with the talent, which I hate that. I hate that expression, born. Like some people are just born prodigies, and I think that's hot garbage. I think there are people that are born where their brain is just wired where they're more receptive to learning, where they're more where they either they're born to be more receptive to learning, or they have parents that have taught them to ask questions and to ask for help, you know. And so they learn early on how to function at peak efficiency, because when you try to do everything by yourself and stuff like that, at some point you're going to hit roadblocks in your life. And so um anyway, I'm kind of getting sidetracked here. So basically, in this 20-minute video, YouTube man was just telling Bob, why he should just, give it up, like like he's not born with this talent or whatever, he and over and over again, YouTube man tells Bob that his art reminds him of his own art, and basically YouTube man had given up on his dream of being a comic book artist, and so that's why he writes now. And I just remember thinking, this is just a couple of days ago, that's just terrible advice. It's like, it, who is he to say that he should just hang it up and give up? I mean, I just thought that was just so. Mm, Again, YouTube man's not a bad guy, but if he was, I would say something that wouldn't be that nice. Um, but I don't think it's anybody's place to say whether somebody should have a career in this or that, and all this other stuff. Because the way I look at it is, if you're drawing every day or writing every day, inking, lettering, or if you're trying to be like a director, as long as you're trying to film something every day, or if you're wanting to be a pro wrestler, as long as you're trying to wrestle every day, whatever your chosen thing is, acting, doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you're trying to pursue in life, as long as you're trying to pursue it every day and make an effort and make strides to improve on your chosen craft, who's to say whether you should have a career in that or not? I don't think it's anybody's place to say that. It's up to you. It's your freaking life. It's my freaking life. The hell with anybody else that says no. I don't care. I don't care. How influential they are, or what they've accomplished, or what they think they've accomplished. And then sometimes, when people get on YouTube, and become like YouTube celebrities, they get a little carried away. They get a little bit of a big head. You know, they forget themselves. It happens to everybody. I guess. I guess it does. Maybe not everybody, but I felt like I'd be like one of those people that would be susceptible to that. Maybe that's one of the reasons I don't have more success than I do, because God knows I'd just be this tyrannical egomaniac. So, but anyway, um, yeah, YouTube man was just crushing Bob, and Bob responded in the comment section of that video, and Bob took it in good stride. He pointed out that it was a quick sketch that he did in 10 minutes, and that he really appreciates the critique, which there was no critique. There was no critique in the whole video. It's just YouTube man repeating over and over again, that basically Bob should just give it up. that he's not got the talent for it. And the stupid thing is, I think Bob does. Now, Bob did not share sequential art, and I think that's really the big thing that makes and breaks most artists. Anybody can draw a pin up, if they put a little time and effort. But the hard stuff is doing the sequential art. Now, for some people, it probably comes easy, but I don't, not for me. But but Bob's little quick 10-minute sketch looked really good to me. Now, I thought the girl's cheekbones looked a little big and her chin looked a little big. But man, that's easy fix. That's what an eraser's for. And I thought the Trent Canuga looking dude's hair was a little unorthodox with the shading. But that's easy fix. That's what an eraser's for. And really, at the end of the day, whether I like his big cheekbone and big chin girl, and whether I like his unorthodox shading of the Trent Caduga dude's hair, it doesn't matter. What matters is if Bob can find enough people that's willing to buy what he draws. I actually, on that video, I had commented, when Bob had made his post on that video, his comment in the video, I replied to him, and I gave him my own critique. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know, but I let him know that right away that first of all, I like his art. I don't see anything really wrong with it. I thought it looked really good. And I told him that I think most people probably feel that way as well. I told him that in my opinion, he needed to work on the cheekbones and the chin, make them a little bit smaller, work on his line weights, like if it underneath the nose or chin, to maybe make the line weights a little thicker, and anywhere where the light source is coming from, make those lines maybe a little thinner, and I told him, since he's studying Arthur Adams, look at the way Arthur Adams does shading on hair and stuff like that. And that was the three critiques that I gave him, and I reminded him that I thought his art looked really good. And I told Bob, I was like, it's like, uh, if we can't always listen to all the naysayers, that tell us that we should, hang it up and all this other stuff, because if that's the case, then John Romita Jr. would have gave up like several decades ago. And that's the truth. Yeah, John Romita Jr. I feel like he's a great artist, and I think a lot of people think that too. But there's also a lot of people that do not like his art style because it's very blocky. He got, like in the '80s, somewhere in the late '80s, John Romita Jr. started embracing this very blocky art style, and some people like it, and some people don't. And but that's okay because art is subjective. And in commercial art, where you're trying to make money, the only thing that matters is if you can find X amount of number of people, if you can find enough people that will pay you to make art. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if everybody likes your art or not. It doesn't matter if YouTube man likes your art or not. What matters is if you can find enough people to where you don't have to flip burgers for a living. You can just draw comics. And so that's what I reminded him of. Like uh, it's about the people that do love your art. It is kind of what matters, and if you can make money at it, since we are talking about commercial art, and I do feel like he can have a career at it, if not already. I don't know a lot about Bob, and and so, I guess to bring things back full circle about, everybody needs help and all this other stuff, and I just felt that was just so wrong for YouTube man to tell Bob all that stuff about, how he basically just repeated in 20 minutes, how he shouldn't have a career, and what if Bob takes that to heart, um, what if he doesn't read my poorly written comment, trying to remind him that, that he's in charge of his destiny, and that he can do it, and his stuff does look good. What if he does take what YouTube man said to heart, and gives it up? I mean, that could be terrible. We could be missing out on the next George Perez or next J. Scott Campbell or next Neil Adams or insert famous artist here or there. And I feel like it's a tragedy. Drink some water here. Before I forget, and since I'm at maximum peak audience here, um, I also wanted to mention, besides congratulations to Jan and his new wife. Um, on a sour note, Ashen Jackal, Ashen Jackal. Ashen Jackal on YouTube. He's a good guy. He's going, I don't want to get into details of it, but he's going through like something really bad now, like a personal tragedy, somebody close to him, and so for anyone that prays, it'd be nice if you can send up some prayers for him, because I imagine he is going through a rough time right now. So I wanted to mention that too before I forgot. And on another note, I want to give everybody updates on how the anthology is going. So I already mentioned that I've been doing a lot of research as far as like finding people to put whimsical horror theme kind of ads in there and stuff like that, actual people. Not only just making fake ads too, but I've also been doing character sketches of freaking I forgot his name, Dr. Terror, and I'm liking how that's going. And I'm gonna do like it's a lot of work, but I don't care. I'm gonna do like 1 to 2 page uh intros to everybody's story. So I'll draw like a page, like for example, like um for Abe's and Palamoni's Wildcat contribution, I'll draw like a 1 page thing where Dr. Terror's like the crypt keeper and he's talking to Wildcat and he introduces the next tale and we zoom in on his interdimensional TV and we see some of the line art that Abe and Palamoni drew on the TV, and then it zooms in and then the very next page is the actual comic that Abe and Palamoni drew and inked. So that's kind of what I'm doing there. I thought that would be a nice way to tie things all together to give it a consistent theme. Um, and so I've actually, I've been doing the thumbnails for that. They're around here somewhere. I don't know where they're at. As far as like the progress that everybody's been making, secret contributor is the man.com. I wonder if that's a website. Probably is the man.com. And he's already got everything pencil inked, letters, the whole 9 yards, and his submission's already sent in. Let's see, Jan. I think Jan is nearing completion. You know, and as far as Abe and Palamani, um, they're rocking away. I think Abe has maybe like 2 more pages to draw on his contribution, and I think Palamani has a little bit more that he needs to ink and stuff like that. But there's plenty of time for all this stuff. Our good buddy Sideburns is working on well, his contribution is pretty much in the can. I think he needs to letter it. I'm not for sure. I think he does. But he's got it all drawn and inked as far as I know. And let's see who else. I feel like I'm leaving somebody out. I'm always leaving people out. Well, there's me. Other than the extra pages that I'm going to do, other than an extra story that I'm going to put in there, I'm trying every way in the world to fatten this book up. I want it to be a thick book. But other than the extra stuff that I'm going to put in it myself, gosh, what else is there? I feel like I really am leaving somebody else. I don't know. But the other thing that I want to say is I really want to promote everybody in the book. And so in the future, and you just really need to think about this too, like if there's an Indiegogo, a Kickstarter, if you have a website or a product or a comic or something that you're working on, think about like an advertisement that you would want to make for it. And so I want to give like an extra 1 to 2 pages to every content creator in the book where they can promote their website or their Instagram or YouTube or just whatever they want to promote, and have like a cool ad made for it. And I also want to do like bios of everybody. I want everybody to have a bio. So think about what you want typed up about yourself, and how you want it to read and all this other stuff, Um, a lot of that stuff isn't necessary right now because there's still plenty of time. But when it comes crunch time, whenever that happens, um, so be thinking about it, do some sketches, write some notes, so that way you at least have something to work off of when it comes time for that stuff. Let me answer a few questions. Are we doing grayscale, by the way? Yeah, the whole comic books is going to be in black and white. I feel like that would save money as far as like printing and stuff. Um, let's see, Peter Palamani. Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. Yeah, I didn't mean to be vague, but yeah, Peter Palamani is I think he's inking Abe Sapien, Abel Parsons' contribution. And I'm not for sure, but I believe that they're basing it off a story written by Lucifer Storm or Foy Storm. And I don't know if it got reworked by them or not. I don't know the details of that, but I believe that it's also part of his story, or was, or based off of it anyway. I have one other cool thing I want to say about the anthology, and I've held this under my vest for a while, and I don't think everybody knows about it yet. I've told like I think two people, and this is an idea that I want to do. I've not seen anybody else do it, as far as I know. But what I was thinking about doing is like basically, if the book gets funded, I'm going to take all the money and I'm just going to buy as many copies as I can and just send it out to all the contributors, and just divide it up equally between us, and that sort of thing. And of course, the backers of the book get their copies too. But what I was wanting to do to add on to that is after the campaign's over, whether it's fulfilled or whether it's not, I want the book to still come out. So here's my idea, okay? And I know it's kind of confusing, but I promise you it's not. In my head, everything's a chaotic mess, but I promise it's simple. So what I want to do is, whether Wildcat Anthology gets funded or whether it doesn't, I want to set up an account with Kablam. And what I want to do is like basically give everyone the keys to the kingdom. I want Jan and Abe and Sideburns and Palamani, um, I guess Waystorm, everybody, anybody that had anything to do with this book, as far as like putting it together and stuff. I want to give you the keys to the kingdom, and I want you whether after the Indiegogo is over, whether it gets funded or not, I want you to be able to go to Kablam.com and say to them like, "Hey, I want you to print me up 1 copy, 10 copies, 100 copies of the anthology," and then basically, you just give them your money, and then they mail you the extra copies that you want, and then you just go and sell them or give them away, do as a contest thing, or have them at conventions that you go to, or just whatever. It doesn't matter. Maybe you want to use them to prop up a broken couch. I don't know, but I just thought that was an awesome idea. Like, we're still doing the Indiegogo. Don't get me wrong. Indiegogo is happening, and when we launch the Indiegogo, if it succeeds, we're still on track to doing what we're doing. Okay, that's not changing. If it fails, that's fine, because, like I said, I'm going to give everybody the keys to the kingdom after the Indiegogo is over. And so for the rest of our lives, everybody would have my permission to go to Kablam and print up as many copies as they want, and whatever money you make off of it, that's yours. You don't have to share it or nothing. You mark it up however you want to mark it up. And I think that's such a cool idea, because I feel like it empowers everybody. to make money and share the book. And every time somebody buys the comic or gets a copy or whatever, it's not just helping one person, it's helping everybody that's involved, because whoever reads that comic is seeing everybody's art and everybody's writing and all their ads and all that stuff. So I feel like it's like a win-win. I don't know. I mean, do you think it's a cool idea? I feel like it's an awesome idea. But don't worry about that idea. Nobody has to do that if they don't want to. The Indiegogo is happening, in the future, very, very, very near future. And that's the focus, and hopefully we'll get it funded and everybody gets their copies and stuff like that. But I just think the Kablam idea is so cool, because, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5, 10 years from now, you can still go to Kablam for all I care and print up as many copies as you want, and do whatever with them. I don't care. Let me see. Let me answer some questions or comments. Jan says, okay, because I'd like to add my own grayscale to my pages on a separate layer. Awesome. Do that. That'd be really cool. It's a great idea for folks going to conventions. I agree. I think why I like the Kablam idea. I need to come up with a name for this idea. Like, I don't know. We're gonna have to borrow like some socialist thing. The indie creator utopian dream, hippie commune, whatever it is. It's just, I don't know, brotherhood of comics. But anyway, my thinking is, okay, this is my thinking. This is me just being real. See, John says, print, do it yourself. Print DIY. But me being real, this is what I think the benefits of doing that is in the future. Again, the Indiegogo still happening, but this is something that's going to take place right after it's said and done. I feel like it empowers everybody and makes everybody equal captains, And since with the Indiegogo, none of us are really making money, I want to be able to make sure everybody's took care of. And I feel like, let's say like Bob does a Wildcat story, right? He does a Wildcat story and he goes to Kablam and says, hey, I want 10 copies of Wildcat Anthology. They print it for him, they ship it to him. And then he can go to comic book conventions and he can mark them up however he wants to mark them up. Maybe he paid $4 a comic, to get them printed and whatever, and he's selling them for $8 or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Well, all that money he gets, that's his. That's his to keep. To do whatever with. And maybe Bob has a website. And he has that up where people can order the Wildcat Anthology on his website, so he has that to give to people. Maybe Bob can also take his story, his individual contribution, and put it up on his website, his Instagram, his Facebook, his YouTube, and show people what he did, which I'm cool with too, and maybe Bob could go on his YouTube or his Instagram or Facebook and say, hey guys, I have a giveaway. I got some copies of this book that I did a story for, this Wildcat Anthology thing. And just be, I don't know. I don't know how these giveaways work. Maybe like, be, just click like and share and say you want a copy or something, and then you win or whatever. I don't know. But Bob could do a giveaway and he give out, free copies if he wanted to, of that he got. Or maybe Bob just gets takes takes what he gets and off of Kablam, and then he just doesn't even worry about making money off of it. He just gives them away to random people, as like to editors and stuff like that to try to get work somewhere, like, hey, here's my work and all this other stuff. But anyway, here's the residual of that. Here's the bonus of that is when Bob does all these things and all the other Bobs that work on Wildcat Anthology, that means that when Bob sells or gives away a comic book to somebody else, they're looking at Jan's story, they're looking at Abe's story and Palamani's story, my story, and Secret Mystery Guy's story, Sideburn story, and so forth and so on. They're seeing all our work. They're not just seeing one guy; they're seeing all of us. They're seeing the advertisements and stuff like that, and they they may see an ad for like phosphor, and be like, oh, that looks really interesting, and like let's see, oh, www dot something 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 other phosphor, and they go look it up, or maybe there might be like an ad for like My Littlest Skull or something like that, or the Reverend by Robert Johnston. Maybe we may throw an ad for our good buddy in there, where people look at it, and then be like, oh wow, that's pretty cool, and so they head over to I think Zero Comics. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe it's Zero Comics. Head on over to Zero Comics, and it's comics with an X, not a CS, but COMIX. And so I like that residual of that. And also there is another thing to it where Wildcat gets more exposure too. So not only do each creator gets more exposure in our creations and our things that we're working on, but Wildcat himself gets more of a thing. So it's like this weird thing where it's just like it's a symbiotic relationship thing, and I've kept this thing mostly to myself for many months now, and I just didn't want to mention it. I thought that maybe I should just wait till after the anthology's out, so that way I don't make it confusing. I feel like everybody would get confused. But I just think it's such a cool idea. I had to say it. I had to say it. I couldn't keep it to myself no more. I've not really seen any other comic book creators do that, and I kind of like to see more do it. Especially on projects like this, where everybody's just getting copies of a book and stuff like that. I really want to make sure you're all taken care of. I really do, because I really, really deeply appreciate everybody's contribution and the work that they're doing. I feel like, I've seen everybody's videos, I've seen everybody's posts and all this other stuff, and I've seen things that you send me private in email, and I really do feel like all of you are doing some of the best work of your careers or where you're at as artists and writers right now. Really good stuff in it, and I think it's awesome. I love seeing people improve. Like I think back on some of us, from even a year ago, and especially like 5 years ago, and I see how far many of us have all of us, not many of us, all of us have come along, and it's like, wow, it's like, it's mind blowing, but it just goes to show, that that you got to keep drawing, you got to keep writing, keep doing the thing that you love, and you're going to eventually get good at it. And just as important, to bring it back full circle, don't be afraid to ask for help, don't be afraid to receive help, and don't be afraid to ask questions, because the most successful people I have noticed do those very things, and the ones that are not successful are the ones that tend to not do those things. And so I guess that's the point of the video today. And I really appreciate everybody sticking around with me. Sorry about the video not working. It was working for like maybe like 10 minutes, but I was having such an awful time with it, and I just gave up. So let's just get a banner. It's a last thing, and I promise I'll let you go, but one last thing, and I think this is cool. So I did a Wildcat, I did a digital version of the logo. Of course, it's not, perfect as far as like, I didn't do it in vector and all these other things. I'm more of a guy that just like, I like to get it together and, you know, fart it out and just move on to the next thing, because there's just so many things bouncing in my head. But now I can use this Wildcat logo, this crude little face that I drew. Now I can use it for marketing and all these different things. Put it on mugs and keychains and stickers. And so I've been looking at some stickers, and so I'm going to do a lot of that stuff, um, and I'm wanting to do a video, like an advertisement video, like whenever I do a Sketching Past Midnight Live, have it as part of my intro to like, like something really cool. Like I really like how Ethan Van Sciver does his intros, not just the meme stuff, to giggle at, but like the Cyberfrog stuff or the Rainbow Brute things. I really love his advertisements for that. I really love Jeff Lafferty's intro for his show, and where he shows the Berserkernaut and stuff like that. So I want to do something like that, and and it means I just basically have to draw a bunch of stuff just to use for the intro, and it's just like, man, that's a lot of it's a lot more work, and so I kind of stopped myself from doing that. But I think, once I got it done, it'd be really cool, and it'd be a good way to promote everything and stuff like that. But as always, I'm always looking at a lot of different crazy things. I'm looking at. I shouldn't say this stuff, but I've done lots of research on things, and so I'm looking at a lot of crazy stuff that's probably anywhere from 2 to 3 years away. Action figures are doable, looking at 3D printing and different things like that, or at least like me making an action figure myself and making my own mold and just doing it here at the house. I'm looking at trading cards, which are far more easier, initially, just draw a bunch of crap and then Photoshop, Krita, Media Bang, GIMP, and just tidy them up and then just have them printed somewhere. I'm looking at making a game 3 or 4 years from now of Wildcat. Like an 8-bit kind of NES Nintendo Entertainment System game, or something of that quality, or a 16-bit type game like Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis. Be like a side scroller. Uh, and I have done some work on that, and I kind of quit on it because it's a lot. you know, um, as far as like the backgrounds and the music and stuff, that stuff's easy. You can find that stuff. The big trouble is working on the sprites, because to animate a character, it's called the characters in a game are called a sprite, but to animate them, especially something that's a little bit more complex, just having Wildcat walk requires maybe anywhere from like 5 to 10 different versions showing him walking. And for him to like squat or jump or punch, I mean, each, so basically you could easily end up anywhere from 50 to like 300 sprites just for Wildcat to be able to move around in the game. And I found some cheats. I basically found a Sabretooth sprite from like Marvel versus Capcom or something like that, and I've been recoloring it, and I've been having a lot of success with it. But the problem is, like, he's got that big white fur thing behind his head, and so I'd have to like erase that on all of those sprites on that sprite sheet, and oh man, that's a lot of work. So I was just like fooey on it. I will come out with a Wildcat game one day, and what I would like to do is whenever I do Wildcat Dead Man Walking, not the anthology, but Dead Man Walking, I would love to have like a lot of extras, like all that stuff I'm talking about, the stickers, I can do the stickers right now. That'd be no problem. Trading cards, a little bit of work, but I can do it. I'd have to hustle. Action figures are going to be more difficult. and but very possible, very possible. There'll be a learning curve, but very possible. I promise. I wouldn't blow you full of smoke. I've done research. But the hardest thing is the game, because it's like basically you're having to learn a whole new craft. But the cool thing is, um, technology has caught up with us so much. You can make apps on your phone and not know any coding. You can make games, not know any coding. Everything's just point and click now, point and click. And so technology's caught up with me. So this stuff's coming. It's 3 or 4 years down the road, and I've started reaching out to people, to inquire about things. I even reached out to a guy on Fiverr to see if he could start editing my Sketching Past Midnight videos and edit them down to the good stuff, like down to 10 minutes, and that way I could upload them on YouTube and they look polished and maybe they'll be entertaining, and just 10 minutes straight to the facts, ma'am, type of thing, but we'll see how that goes. So anyway, that is what I got to say. Jan says, great update still. Thank you. Games are so much work. Yes, they are. Um, but they're so cool when they work out. And the Wildcat game, whenever I do it, I just want to do like 3 levels, and in the future, whenever I do the Wildcat Dead Man Walking campaign or whatever, I'd like that to be one of the extras, and like people could download that game, and play it right away in their phones or whatever, and I just want it to be like Splatterhouse 2 or something like that. Kind of got that vibe to it, or like Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, that type of quality, maybe, with a lot of chip tune music that's in the style like Motorhead and Metallica and AC/DC, and it'd be awesome. Be awesome. And basically it would follow the comic, so it'd start out like in the graveyard, and yes. I'm getting ahead of myself. That stuff doesn't matter. I'm nowhere near that stuff yet. I'm still I'm still working on the anthology. I'm buried up to my knees in work. I'm going to drown, but that's okay, because that's what forges champions. I'm going to be just like Conan on that big freaking wheel. I'm going to be pushing that wheel, buddy. I'm going to be pushing it. Everybody else will be falling off like flies, but I'm going to still push that anthology. I'm going to beat it like a dead horse. And buddy, I'm going to get the drawing muscles like you wouldn't believe. Just like Conan got muscles from head to toe. My 2 fingers that hold the pencil, maybe even my thumb, we'll count 3. They'll develop muscles with blood veins like bulging out of them, because they'll be like, my drawing hand will be so intense, and then the Wildcat drawings will look so intense that they'll just be like whole new level. So that's where I'm taking it. I refuse to drown in work. I will overcome. Ugh. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you guys have a good night. Also, quick reminder, just for anyone that prays or whatever, please say a prayer for Ashen Jackal. Just one of these things we just sent up to God, and like, what's wrong with him. He don't have nothing wrong with him, but you know what he's got going on. So just help him through this difficult time. Congratulations to Jan. Much love to Robert and the Lion's Den, and everybody else has tuned in. Love y'all. Appreciate everything. As always, you're watching Sketching Past Midnight Live. Please remember to be the tide that rises all ships. Be the change that you want to see, because otherwise, how's anything going to change if we wait on other people to do it first? And remember to draw faster. And carpe diem, baby. Until next time, it's CB Smallwood signing off. I'm not even going to do a intro going out. I'm just going to go ahead and just hit the end button. I can hum you some music as I do it. See, end, end the broadcast. Yes.